you have aging parents and you are not even sure where to start, which direction to go, welcome to this video. I'm going to try and make life easier for you through the guidance and the support that I'll give you on this video. My name is Meg and I've worked as a registered nurse for many years in 3 different countries, one of them the United Kingdom and overseas as well. For several years, I worked in the intensive care department where patients are on life support. It was one of the most adventurous chapters of my nursing career. Because you can imagine somebody comes and usually things don't go as family expect, like in a negative way, also in the positive way. What I mean by this is sometimes family even give up. They're just like, oh, we don't know if this family member will make it, but the person makes it. And I must say the healthcare industry doesn't get enough credit. And it is an industry where people who work in healthcare, usually they don't need external validation. That is probably why. These are the kind of individuals who don't need accolades. They don't need Hollywood, celebrity status. It's just we get on with it. And it's like a calling, it's a life calling, it's a life assignment. And rightly so, when you're just doing what you need to do, you don't need, like during the pandemic, the clapping and all that. Let me just say though, what we need, this is diverting a little bit from the topic, but I'll just mention this so that you understand where I'm coming from. What most governments need to understand and make sure, people who are sustaining the lives of our citizens, they must get the recognition they deserve. Not by public displays of awards and all this, that's good when it happens, but I think what needs to be happening is to make sure those people can afford the cost of living. Because think about it this way. Every person that the healthcare industry manages to keep alive, sustain life, that's another citizen in the workforce. That's another family member that family don't have to be going through all the stress because the healthcare industry has managed to keep them alive and sustain them. When the healthcare industry works, it works really good. There's a lot of work we need to do, but let's appreciate what we've already got. I know we have so many problems in the healthcare industry, and that's not what I'm here to talk about, actually. I just want to say that it is hard work. Make sure that the cost of living matches the salary that nurses are paid. We know many doctors who walk away. There's an influencer on YouTube, a doctor that I know, he's doing really well because he was like, there's more to life than just running around stressed out. Do not take it for granted that people who are in healthcare will always be there. You will always lose the good ones when they're not treated right. You will always lose the good leaders. But anyhow, that was a diversion from the topic I wanted to discuss this evening. If you are wondering, what do I do in this season in my life? I don't know what to do. Maybe you have a partner, maybe your wife, maybe it's your husband. They are not feeling well and you're not sure what to do. You don't want to carry all the burden, all the responsibility by yourself. Because I know some of you are so hardworking, you don't want to ask for help. There is nothing wrong in asking for help. There's absolutely nothing wrong in asking for help. Because think about it this way. When you get help to support you to look after a loved one that is not well, that also improves the quality of your own life. I was thinking about this before I came on this video, just to say, when I was working in the nursing departments, I worked in 3 different countries. When I worked in the children's section, it was an unspoken rule that when we're looking after a child, we also had to care for the parents. Because when the parents are stressed out, they can't coordinate, they cannot function, they're so stressed out. It can be difficult to focus on caring for their child. So you can imagine with staffing issues, it takes a lot of diligence, a lot of planning, a lot of intentional strategic planning to make sure that the parents are supported so they can relax and chill and know that their child is getting the best care possible. And I'm not sure where you're watching this video from, but I'm talking about the United Kingdom at the moment. You can adapt to the country where you are right now with the ideas I'm going to share. So now that I'm on the other side, I now work as a coach. I help people who are transitioning from burnout, working so hard in healthcare, and want to start your own business or want to start your own side project. I coach people to do that because this is something that I've done for many years, and I also do digital marketing to help people who are making that transition to become more visible online so that this chapter in your life will not be as stressful as the first chapter, because this could be your middle chapter. So that's one of the things that I do as a coach. So I also coach adult children who have aging parents because of my many years in healthcare. How to make life easier for yourself, how to not be stressed out. So this is where the practicals come in, and I break things down for you because I've been in the industry and I saw what stresses people out that you don't need. So anyhow, let's get into the practical. So what do you do when you don't know what to do? It could be your husband, it could be your wife, or it could be your aging parents. You can see that they're not coping day to day. They are not managing. There's nothing wrong with that because different medical conditions bring different types of problems and challenges. And you could be in a situation right now, let me actually highlight this one, where your parents are going into surgery or they are in hospital right now and they need to come home, but you're not sure what to do, how to plan their discharge, because the hospitals, they will not let them go home. That is just how it is. It is a duty of care. They cannot let a patient who has been dealing with this medical condition, they're a little bit better, they cannot let them go home on their own because they may need to continue medication, they may need to be checked on a regular basis, they may need follow-up, they may need GP appointments, just to make sure they don't, end up in hospital again, right? Because the hospitals don't have enough beds, as we know. So one of the things that you can do straight away right now is get in touch with me, send me an email, let me know, Coach Meg, I need some support, I need some guidance. I'll go through the coaching with you. There's a fee, of course, attached to that because I just break it down. I need to understand what your parents are dealing with, and then I can give you some possible scenarios. I don't know what your parents could be dealing with. Maybe they had a hip surgery, maybe it was a knee surgery, or maybe they had a stomach surgery. I remember one of my clients, she was in her 90s and I worked with an agency at the time. So I went to look after her because she needed medication in the night and she needed somebody there at night, especially the first day after major surgery. So you will need somebody who keeps an eye on your parents or your family, or it could be a friend, like who's alert. Not somebody who's been awake all day and is too tired in the evening. You need somebody who's alert, it's like doing a night shift. And it may not be all night, but it is so important that you have this plan in place. Otherwise, the hospital will not let you take your mom or dad home. Now, think about it this way. They don't need to stay in hospital. They may catch another infection. Now they're staying in hospital longer than they need to. Or, we don't want to go into the worst scenario. So you want to get your mom or dad home as quickly as possible. So you need a plan in place. You need a dynamic plan in place. They need to have the assurance that you have someone who's qualified, who has the experience, who has the patience to look after your parents before they go home. Now, that could be you. You can decide, okay, I can do it, and that is fine. But even for you, you will still need some support because throughout the day, you may need to go to your own hospital visits, especially for adult children over 50. Yes, or you may need to attend to your own teenage children. You may need to attend to your own housekeeping, your own life. You don't have to feel guilty when you ask for help. Because I saw this play out a lot when I was in the community. Sometimes some of the parents would be really difficult on their adult children. Like, oh, I don't want to be looked after by a stranger. Knowing full well you work a full-time job. Yeah, sometimes some parents they can be really difficult. And let's just be honest, it is what it is. So what you can do is just gently explain without getting frustrated and upset. And that's where the coaching you comes in. When you have the right support, it works really well. You get peace of mind and it just works really well when it works. And I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, man, It didn't work for me. We've had so many different carers coming in and out of the house, and some of the carers were, I know all the drama. Trust me, I know all the drama around that. Sometimes where the caregiver just walks out, can't get on, and it's a whole nightmare. And this is what families need to understand. Agencies are businesses. Okay, this is important to understand. Agencies are businesses. So they'll do their best as much as possible to find the right carers for you. Or even your local council. I'm not sure which part of the United Kingdom you're watching this from. The local council can do their best to find the right people. They've got the qualifications and all this. But sometimes it could just be, it's just not the right match. So you have to be prepared for some changes, some drama, and it's a challenge. It takes a while to adapt to this new change, right? And so let me just say, one of my favorite ideas is you need somebody mature. On top of maybe just being a registered nurse, ex-registered nurse, like in my case, or who wants to work part-time because according to the structure and the needs that your family member needs, you may just need somebody who comes in a couple of hours, does the medication, prepares the meal, make sure they're ready for the day, or you may need somebody who stays the whole day until you can get to your parents, or you may need somebody who actually lives in as a companion, but also as a trained, can supply medication, can support with medication, can organize doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, the whole works. So if you're new to this, it may feel confusing and you may be frustrated. Remember, agencies are businesses, so they'll do the best they can. So you need to be empowered. That is primarily why I'm doing this video. I want to empower you so that you are ready for changes. And I cannot possibly exhaust every possible scenario. But let's say, for example, your mom or dad has the potential to fall at home. And they are adamant, they insist, they will be stubborn about it, that they're fine, they can cope by yourself. But you as a son or daughter, you are stressed out. Oh my goodness, what will happen to them? Because the bones get brittle as we get older. So if they fall, have a fracture, the recovery period, it's just like sets them all the way back. So you want to avoid that. This is where it helps to talk to somebody who's calm and understand that's been there. Of course, every person is different, and it's about understanding the angle your parents are trying. Sometimes parents can just become... I've actually got somebody in mind right now. This lady was so being really difficult to her kids, her sons, pitting them against each other. Oh, this son is better. And it was just, oh my goodness. But anyway, this is not me disclosing private people's stories. This is just giving an example for teaching purposes. But anyhow, what you want to do is have an outsider speak with you because you may be feeling stressed out. Don't leave it at the last minute. Do not assume. The number of times people assume they'll cope, they'll be fine, until they're just like, I am exhausted, I'm frustrated. Meg, what do we do? What's happening here? It is better to start the process now. Start planning ahead of time. You can see, and then introduce the idea gently to your parents. Now, there are many ways to do this. You can just observe that, okay, because think about it, your mom or dad has been independent for all their life, and they may be going through the grieving process, which is, grief has stages, and I may not even know which stage your parent is on right now. So according to the level, the stage they're on in the grieving process, accepting can be quite difficult. They may be in denial. This is not happening. I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody coming to help me. They can go through the anger, the denial, the frustration, and lashing out at everybody, all these things. It's they're going through the grieving process. When they get to the acceptance stage, that's when it's like, whew, it's a sigh of relief. Whew, we're making progress here. I remember one lady I worked with over in her 90s. Oh my goodness, she didn't like me from the beginning. I was like, what's not to like about me? I'm so nice, I'm so charming, I'm so kind, I'm attentive. But I was also professional enough to know, that's the funny side of me. you have to use humor to survive in this industry. I also knew it would take a while. I just had to be patient. It got to a stage where she did not want anybody else to come near her. Where's Meg? When is Meg coming back? I would have to take a break, of course, because I had my own life. When is Meg? Because I would do like 2 weeks rotas. I would go and stay with her for 2 weeks, then somebody else would take a turn and all this. It's really good to come from that background where I actually did the work and I saw the problems, what's good, what doesn't work, and what works. It was such an amazing thing. We became such friends that she can tell me, exactly how she feels without the feeling of Meg is going to walk out. It's like in relationships because you now become like kind of friends, right? So you start developing a relationship. You start to know what they like and what they don't like, and you create a certain rapport. And that is, can I just say, that is not easy to get to. That is not easy because not everybody is patient, not everybody is willing to stay until the change happens. So, as a family, your part is to understand different things will be happening here, but you can decide to empower yourself and play as significant a part as you want, which is what we're talking about here. Where you plan, you can get in touch with me. We're going to do a consultation over the phone, and I can look at some risk factors, what's happening now. Like I said, if there's a possibility your mom or dad can trip and fall in the house all by themselves, they will need somebody there 24/7, also known as a live-in carer. A live-in caregiver is, I think it's one of the biggest advantages that you can have for your family. One of the challenges, of course, everything has its pros and cons, is you have this new person coming in the house that you don't know, you've never met them before. So how do you mitigate that? Is you do a trial period where this person is working with your mom or dad, from morning until midday, just to transition, to make the transition. And then they go back home, okay? Then you take over in the afternoon and without even asking or interviewing or interrogating either party, just observe, is there anything different? Are they happier? Are they better? And this will take a while. You have to, seriously, you have to give this trial period 90 days minimum. That is my observation, and I did this for 8 years. You need to give it at least 90 days minimum to observe. And that is not to say you cannot interject, you cannot interrupt and say, you know what, this is not working, let's make another plan. You can make another plan because you decide, you know what, let's maybe take you into a respite center where they've got other patients and there's more staff and there's more social events happening. That is what may be right for your mom or dad. Okay? Because everything has its pros and cons. But living, when done well, it's you have peace of mind. You know mom and dad are not by themselves. You know they'll get nutritious meals. You know they'll get a social life because this caregiver who lives with them, or carer as is known here in the UK, known as a caregiver in Canada and in the United States, I believe, and Australia, but known as a carer here in the UK. This person can be a living companion for them. They're being well compensated. The dynamics are working. You would not even have to worry about the support of your parents for the next year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Yes. So that's one thing. And they get to live in their own home. It's such a huge plus. And that person is somebody who is so close, they can see if there's any change and they'll let you know. And now we even have technology. So let me get to another part I wanted to talk about. So now that we've just discussed the practical, making an assessment, making a decision, because I want you to make an informed decision, to look at your options. You have options, I kid you not. You have options. You may not know this. I remember working with another lady. She didn't know she had options, so she was feeling frustrated and was taking out her frustration on her live-in caregiver. Just reporting to her children, the caregiver did this, I don't want the caregiver here. But when the whole thing was searched out, the lady didn't know she had options. She didn't need to have somebody there the whole time. She could have had another plan, and the family didn't know. But anyway, so that didn't work out the way it could have gone. And that's the nature of life, okay? Is to understand that though you have experts, you can have the best person, somebody who has even passed the mom test, things can still go wrong. The person is not the right match, or it's just, I don't know, life just happens. But of course, the plan is you don't want to waste time changing different caregivers all the time. You want to have a plan in place at the beginning where there's a bit of peace and quiet, some stability. Your mom or dad gets used to this new plan. Everybody needs that. Everybody absolutely needs that. So, having done the assessment and looked at your options, and you decide, okay, maybe what we can do is we have a caregiver who comes in for the morning, makes mom and dad some breakfast, gets them ready for the day, or the grooming, or the basics. Any doctor's appointments, go with them to doctor's appointments, do some exercise with them, some physio, do the housekeeping, the shopping, and all this. Then you can come in the afternoon or the evening and spend the evening with them, because you are happy that mom or dad or both can stay by themselves through the night. But if they cannot, then you need a full-time living caregiver. And that has its own, the rates vary. It's easy to work through. Okay, so how can you make life easy for yourself? After you've decided which one, here are some other practical things you can do. Make sure the home is safe for mom and dad. Make sure you have carbon monoxide testing done, fire testing, first aid kit. You have to have an up-to-date first aid kit. It's non-negotiable. The medication, are they on repeat prescription if they are taking medication long-term? Is the pharmacy able to deliver the medication on a regular basis? Because depending on where you live and the pharmacy that you have, the pharmacy can deliver the repeat prescription every week or every 2 weeks or once a month. Yes, this can be negotiated, it can be discussed. You don't have to wonder how is this going to work out. But you also need to check with the GP. Is this medication that the GP has to re-prescribe every time? So somebody has to coordinate all that. It can be quite a bit to coordinate, but that's one of the things that you should be aware of. Then, is there any dressings that need to be done on a regular basis that you need to include the district nurse? The district nurse will come and do the dressings, the changing of catheter bags, if there's a catheter, and all the clinical stuff that the caregiver who lives in cannot do, absolutely cannot do. Unless you have a visiting nurse, then she can do those things, right? But if it's just a caregiver, there are things that she cannot do. It would have to be a trained nurse. There are things that the caregiver has not been trained to do, and please do not think that is a problem. It is for the safety of your own parents and for everyone else. Do not cut corners and say, oh, just go ahead and do that. You are putting the carer at risk, and if they end up in trouble, you will not be able to defend them in a court case. This is important, okay? All right, so what are the other things you can do? Make sure the house is safe. The type of shoes mom and dad are wearing, they should be safe enough that when they are wearing them, walking around the house, or going for their daily walk outside in the local neighborhood, they have comfortable shoes for them, that they will not trip and fall over. I mean, I know it may sound like common sense, but you will be shocked how it's those little things, because everybody's busy, tired, exhausted, stressed out. It's easy to dismiss and just think, oh, it will be okay. Okay, what's another thing? Diet. Ooh, diet and nutrition is big. You actually need a plan, and if you want one, listen, depending on the medical condition your mom or dad is struggling with, I can give you some guidelines. I can send you a planner, and there is an email somewhere here that you can send me and say, look, I saw you on YouTube or social media. This is all I need for now. So we'll do a free consultation, and then, a paid consultation, and you get a roadmap just to help you. This is where you need to start. Because by all means, you can also check for yourself, what do we need to make sure if mom is type 2 diabetes? What do we need to make sure she's eating? How many times in the day? Before the insulin? How many times do we check the blood sugar? There are so many different things you need to be looking at. If they have hypertension, kidney problems, they need a low salt diet. So according to the medical condition that mom and dad are dealing with, you will have to structure a meal plan that works for them. Okay? And then liquids. That is why a visiting caregiver that stays longer than 30 minutes is so ideal. Because when you have a caregiver that only comes for 30 minutes, the horror stories that I hear where somebody's found, and because the plan in place was for somebody to just come in for 30 minutes and families are not aware of this, please make sure you understand exactly what kind of care you are accepting for your parents, because you can put your parents at risk. If the plan is you agree to just 30 minutes but your parents need more, yes, I hope this is making sense to you. I highly recommend a minimum of 2 hours. And anyhow, if you really want what's best for your parents, make sure you get all the information. And I know you want the best for your parents. I'm just a reminder. Make sure you get as much information as possible, because I'm acting here as a facilitator, really, essentially, to help you make an informed decision. Okay, because you'll find some agencies will typically accept a minimum of 2 hours, some a minimum of 6 hours, because they feel like it's not worth for a caregiver coming out for 2 hours, then going to the next one. It's not sustainable for a business. Okay? All right, what are other things? Do your parents struggle with arthritis holding the ordinary cutlery when having a meal? So you may have to get specialized cutlery for them, right? And what I'll do, I'll put some links below, some recommendations, the type of cutlery that you must get for them. Yes, because it can become a bit hard, or their arms, their hands up. It's painful for them to hold the ordinary cutlery. So they will need a special type of cutlery. So what's another thing that you can do to make life easier for yourself? Get your parents into a social club or circle. I cannot overemphasize this. The number of times that I saw parents struggling with loneliness, which can lead to mental health issues, there is no need. What you can do is, okay, let me just say, everybody's different, right? Everybody's different. Even having a full-time caregiver sometimes may not be enough, because this full-time caregiver could be somebody who has to work really hard doing the medication, getting the house ready. So this person may be too tired to actually have a proper social interaction with your family. So you may need an outsider, also known as a visiting carer, who comes for 2 hours, 3 hours, just to give that caregiver who's been all night perhaps working, or all morning, to give that person a break so that they can show up confident, happy, positive, because they're not too tired. So you will need to ask a caregiver to come in, just have a social with your mom, to talk about their history, their journey, what they've gone through, what they've experienced, and what are the comparisons. Somebody who discusses history, somebody who loves history, or if they don't love history, they can actually do their research before they come. This is something that anybody can adapt to. Why am I saying that? Is you want to keep your parents still mentally stimulated, and you want them to still feel like they're not just somebody with a medical condition who's being cared for by a nurse. No, that's very unkind. I really think that's unkind. You want to make sure they have somebody who is giving them this sense of adventure. Or you can even organize a weekend away. This is not hard to organize. This is not hard to organize. There are caregivers who especially do that. They are also known as respite caregivers, giving your full-time caregiver a break so that this person can rest and somebody else comes in. Okay? So their social life is important. What's another thing you can do? You can sign them up to a virtual class. I've been designing some virtual classes that they can join, where we discuss history, where they can be interacting with another virtual social club. This is an idea somebody can run with if you like. So that social club, I remember that's another client that I worked with. She was also in her 90s. It used to be like twice a week. She would be part of a community of people learning about history, her own family history, in her times, things that she didn't know, which it was rather interesting to watch. So it was something she was always looking forward to. She could ask questions, she would interact with others. this was an academic lady, of course, and everybody's different. But you can decide, say, maybe mom or dad are not academic, right? They're not academically inclined. What are their hobbies? What did they like before? What can they talk about, right? So you can organize a virtual group that they can be a part of. If you need some help with that, let me know. I will help you with that. In this virtual group, they can be discussing, maybe it's fishing, or maybe it's cooking, or maybe it's fashion, whatever they were into. What I'm trying to say here is you want to maintain the quality of life that your parents used to enjoy up until whenever the time comes. I hope that is making sense. So this can also be an actual group where they go to. I remember another client, I used to take her. If I use a term client, it's just a business term, don't let that throw you off. I would take her twice a week to language classes. Imagine that, I was totally fascinated. The number of elderly people in their 80s I felt had a social life more than mine was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. So I would take her to language classes. One of the days she would be learning Italian, another day she would be learning Spanish. So she was still making friends after the classes. They would have tea and coffee. They would be hanging out together. So even if she doesn't see these people the rest of the week, but the twice a week that she sees them, it was enough, especially for the academic types. I find that is just really nice. Because, people like to read and study. They don't want to be around people all week, every day, So you have to work out what your parents like and then facilitate that. Yeah, so this is not easy. And an agency will typically look at finding a caregiver. That's their domain, that's their expertise. But this, what I'm talking about now, is going a little bit out, right? Because you can have a caregiver who can take them and all this. But if your mom and dad need more, they may need weekends away and so many other different things. And I don't know, I think there are not as many people doing it the way I'm discussing this. So my service is completely different in that way. What are the other things you can do is to make life easier for yourself. Let's manage expectations right from the beginning. Because going forward, when lines are blurred, rather. Oh, I thought you were going to take mom. Oh, I thought you were taking mom this weekend. It can get so confusing, and your parents need stability. And for your own sake, it is better to manage expectations at the beginning. Who's going to be doing the funds? Who's going to be doing the shopping? Do you want the caregiver to have some time to get out of the house, so let her do the shopping? Do not be overly concerned about finances and all this. Yes, I know you should, absolutely. What I mean is just set a budget, that's it. Don't be stressed about it. Just decide this is how much we can spend for mom. This is what the budget is, because we are anticipating we're going to be doing this for the next year or 2 or 3. So this is the budget. This is what we'll spend on the grocery, the housekeeping expenses. And ideally, it helps if you also cover the expenses, the meals of the caregiver, because it's a companion living in the house, really. I think it's kind to show kindness and say, we appreciate you coming and staying with mom. Because I never used to understand when adult children are acting resentful to the caregiver who is actually coming to help you as a family. I used to find that really difficult, but this happens in real time. And I'm talking about this to help you, because you may be in that space mentally where you don't realize, you know what, this person is actually coming to help us. So let's make life easier for her, because when life is easier for her or him, then they will do the best care they can for our parents. Okay? And especially the good caregivers, if they sense people don't appreciate, they just go quietly. They won't even give you a reason. I used to have people who would say, oh, that really nice caregiver is not here anymore. What happened? No reason given. Because really mature caregivers, kind people, they don't like drama. They won't be discussing all this back and forth. No. So managing expectations at the beginning. And this is a people skills, and depending on your background, you may have a business background that you didn't really deal with people. It's people skills. And the trouble with this is sometimes you're unprepared. You don't know how to deal with people from another culture. and you're trying to figure out and work. So that's part of the coaching here. Me being a facilitator to help you. You will have somebody there to discuss and ask. That's how one of my services works. You will have somebody on the other end of the phone to go through some topics, some things that have been happening this week that you're concerned about, because this person is being objective to support you, to make sure everything is working well. Okay, so people skills does come into play here. How to build rapport with a complete stranger, how to know this person is here to help us. Let's make life easier for them so that they can do the best that they can for our family member. And I think that's why the care industry has such a negative, people don't want to be in it. If they're in it, they just stay for a bit, because people don't realize this is a people business. It's not just for the families. I'm an advocate for both sides. The caregivers need to get the mutual respect that they're giving, that they are expected to be professional, but the environment has to be conducive for them. If you walk into a hostile environment, it's like 2 days, I'm out. And it happens all the time. A caregiver can come, they plan to be here for 6 weeks, and you've got a plan in place, 8 weeks or 12 weeks, but something shows up that was not disclosed, was not discussed. The caregiver after 3 days, like, I'm out, and they're free to go, right? But I know you don't want that. I know you don't want that. You want stability. And if there's anything that you are like, okay, what about this, Meg? Let me know. How do I deal with this? That is where we talk about it, and we go through the coaching and the different scenarios. And at the end of the day, this is about empowering you to make it work for you, right? And having a sustainable team, a sustainable plan is the best way forward. I kid you not, it's the best way forward, because it stops this always having to find somebody else, always trying to work out what's the next plan, or trying to find another agency. Oh, is this agency better? Agencies are businesses. Agencies are businesses hiring people, and every agency has its own work culture. But the person coming to actually work with your parents, those are the field agents. Yes, those are field agents. They are actually in the field. So they can be completely different from the agency. They'll know how to work according to the guidelines and all that, but you want people that are mature, people who have the experience, people who've been police checked, people who passed the mom test and all this. So listen, on this note, I also wanted to add some other practical things. There are mobility scooters or equipment that you can use, so that if mom is struggling to, or dad is struggling to get out of the house or around the house, they can have some equipment that you can use in the house. Some of the equipment can be organized with your local council, but let me also say, fair warning, it may take a long time. Yes, it may take a long time to get the equipment put in place, the adaptations done to the house to make sure that your mom has something to hold on to, also known as grab rails around the house, different parts of the house where they normally sit, in the bathroom, in the loo. It can take a while. So you have the option of hiring a private contractor. Yes, you can have somebody who comes privately, does the assessment, and they get everything done in place. Okay? You can also get your own scooters or mobility equipment that you can hire. You don't need to wait until, don't frustrate yourself. Yes, this is why I said this is empowerment. Get all the equipment that you need to make life easier for you, so that by the time the council comes, you can even ask them, how long will this take roughly? You don't want to be, oh my goodness, and it's unnecessary stress. Yes, all you want to know is, please let me know, how long will this take to get somebody to come and do all the adaptations? The front of the house, if mom and dad are going to need a wheelchair, you will need a ramp at the front of the house. So either you get the council have it done, or you can organize to get it done. That is one of the fastest ways. Okay, what else? I've talked about the social medication. Like I said, check with the pharmacy, check with the GP. How long do you need the prescription rewritten? Can the pharmacy deliver every time? Because sometimes the carer that you get may not have a car. Do not limit yourself, by the way, to carers who only have cars. There are many amazing carers who don't have cars for whatever reason they can't afford to. Do not limit yourself to only carers who have cars. You can hire an Uber, you can hire a taxi, yes, so that mom and the caregiver can go wherever they want to go. Do not limit yourself to a carer who has a car. That's that's limiting your pool, okay? Because I know sometimes in those years when I did it, the agencies were only looking for people who have cars. Of course, yes, in areas that are remote, but you are limiting yourself to a small pool of caregivers. You can organize a taxi in the local area. Or if mom and dad have a car and you find a caregiver who doesn't have a car but has a license, that's also another way that that can work. Okay, listen, on that note, I thought I'll give you as much information as I can as possible to make life easy for you, to get you started, to make sure by the time it's Christmas, you've got a plan in place, because do not leave things at the last minute. You want to have a plan in place early. Let me also give you some peace of mind. If through my service, if through the work that I'm doing, we organize the right caregiver for you, it will be somebody police checked, somebody who has the right attitude, who has a respectful attitude and mindset, has the experience, has the patience and resilience to go through the changing season, the transition season. And like I said, if you want to try this out, give it a week, 2 weeks, minimum 3 weeks, to be honest. And I know there are many, many, many professional caregivers who are responsible, who are highly motivated, who see this as their business. So those are the kind of caregivers actually you want, who see this as their own business. So when they come, they're not coming just to tick the boxes. They care about their reputation. They care about where their next customer will come from, or client or service user. So anyhow, I hope some of what I've shared here helps you and is empowering to you, that it doesn't have to be as stressful. Every challenge can be looked at. If it's impossible and you cannot have mom or dad stay at home, then you can have respite care where they actually go into a facility. And that is also something that we can discuss and look at and see what the options are that are available to you. So anyhow, listen, get in touch with me. There's an email somewhere down below and I will help you. As if I can't help you, I will let you know, like, okay, this is way out of my expertise, and I'll do my best to point you in the right direction. So I hope that helps. Have a great evening. Bye for now.